Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understanding of the teachings and practice, it is offered freely as a practice of dana parami. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this practice is done without expectation of getting something in return. This is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. Other ways to practice dana is to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice, and to give without judgment or expectation when opportunity arises. Those who share their teachings at Great Tree do so on a dana basis. Please support their practice by giving what you can. You can either do this directly or through Great Tree, and we will pass it on to them. And thank you, Paige, for saying that you're giving dana to Great Tree. And our speaker and teacher today is Paige Kanko Gilchrist, and she is a longtime practitioner of Zen meditation and yoga. Paige now graces Asheville's yoga scene with her own dynamic teaching style. These gentle flow classes have a way of meeting you where you are by creating an environment that fosters deep awareness, allowing you to challenge yourself at your own pace and level. Paige completed her foundational yoga teacher training and advanced certification in therapeutic yoga with a wonderful collective of teachers led by Stephanie Peach at Asheville Yoga Center, a longtime student of Reverend Teijo Munnich at Great Tree Zen Temple. She also studies the full spectrum of Hindu Dharma with Kaya Mifflin. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for that. You'll all be happy to know that I have sent off a much shorter, more concise bio to be used in the future. So we've got that wheeled in a little bit. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. And it's so great to see people here, I think all the way from France, right? It's nice to see those of you here on the screen, Imani and Sarah and Linda and Lilian, and great to have those of you who are able to be at the Tempo. And Kanko and I were just talking the other day at lunch about how grateful we are that these embodied practices are a part of the overall practice at Great Tree. I think I was introduced as your speaker, but that's kind of an ambitious term. I'm really just your co-mover this morning. I guess I wanted to, well, first really congratulate you, Teijo and Genjo and everybody who worked so hard at Great Tree to accomplish that beautiful mountain seat ceremony. And one of the things that I was most touched by was the incorporation of the land and the earth and the elements, which is a big part of all of these practices, definitely a part of yogic tradition and yogic practices. And that's a little bit about what we do in these quarterly movement practices, is we get to touch into kind of the wheel of the year, the turn of the seasons, how as natural beings ourselves, that has an impact on us. And something else that kept coming up at the mountain seat ceremony were questions, sometimes in combat form, about how these practices really help us in a time when the world feels, gosh, at best chaotic and noisy and maybe troubled. And over again, different people and different voices talked about how these practices can bring us back to a state of equilibrium and equanimity and balance. And that's really what this autumnal equinox season is about. We're supported in that impulse to get back to balance and back to a state of, we could even say, harmony by the whole cosmos. Right now, everything is right in this state of perfect balance, right in between the summer equinox or the summer solstice, I should say, and the winter solstice. And we're at this time when day and night are even and equal, light and dark, and we can play with that sense of potential equanimity and balance in our bodies. So that's what I have planned for us today, a little bit of a tapping in through our breath and our body to that state of balance and equilibrium. I love that you all have tea there in the Zendo. There's this trend I've recently heard about called deep casual hosting, where you just kind of put out some food and have some people over and make it a gathering. And this is deep casual yoga. Have your tea, have your dog, have your snacks, have whatever you would like. Lots of blankets, lots of props, lots of support. Everything we're going to do today is also modifiable. I don't know, is anyone, you could even just raise your little electronic hand if anyone is choosing to practice maybe in a chair today. That way I could offer some cueing that supports that. I'll try to weave that in as we go along anyways, in case people practicing with recording would rather be in a chair than on the ground. But if you're able to get a yoga mat or just some cushion on the ground and maybe pull in some blankets or something, that might be nice. And I think it could be really supportive to just start on our backs. And so I typically teach slow flow, restorative yoga. I'm a big fan of support systems. And so it could be nice if you've got a blanket, you could fold it up a little bit, kind of like so, make a little pillow out of that blanket, or it might be that you're using a cushion or something at home, and you could just tuck that under your head. That roll at the edge of the blanket could even fit right into the natural curve behind your neck. Great. Okay, chair. So sitting is perfect. Thanks for letting me know about that, Sarah. And so if you're lying on your back, you can get that little curve of a blanket right under your neck. If you're sitting in a chair, you can just kind of lean back toward what is supporting you, so you feel that actual support. And it may be nice, those of you on the ground, on your back, right here at the beginning, to maybe just bend your knees, put your feet on the ground. And when you do that, you could widen your feet so they're maybe as wide as your yoga mat if you're using it, and let your knees fall together so that your legs aren't working. You're not using a lot of muscular engagement to hold your legs in place, but they're just supported by falling in toward each other. If you're sitting, you can arrange yourself with your feet feeling something, if that's possible. Take in your sitting bones and the backs of your legs. And then just start by taking in everything that's supporting you right now. I loved as we were sitting in Zazen, kind of hearing both in my own environment and in the environment through the great tree Zendo, some birds. Could feel the quality of air on my skin, that quality of air beginning to shift as a little whisper to us of the shifting, slanting season. So you might take in some of the elemental qualities that are in your environment. Let them all be welcome. We don't have to shove anything away. We don't have to make this precious or pristine. We just get to be ourselves with support, be these natural beings that we are, a part of this natural turning of the seasons. Tankyo and I were also talking about kind of the deep value and support, and we could even say mystery and magic of the breath in these practices. I can imagine you're all familiar with that to some extent. So maybe as your breath gently softens and deepens, and you kind of feel your own inner breeze moving in and out of your body, we could give ourselves a little breathing practice. In yoga tradition, it's called samavriti breathing. That translates roughly as same fluctuation or same length. It's just putting an even pace to our breath so that we can, as whole-bodied nervous systems, begin to align with some of that balance and equanimity. So I'll give us a short count to start with. You don't have to get too roped in by that. If it supports you, great. If not, just let your breath balance itself. But we'll do a count of 4. So as you feel ready to exhale your breath, just let everything empty out. And then when you feel ready to inhale, just nice and easy to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll just stick with that. When you're ready to inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you're ready to exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more like that together. As you're ready to inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. As you're ready to exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now you can relax that attention to an actual count, but just let that quality of evenness, of balance of your breath continue to ride kind of the breeze of your breath in and out of your body. And then we'll give ourselves just some really gentle kind of grounding, settling movement to start with to weave along that current of the breath. So if you're on the ground and your knees are bent, you can widen your knees away from each other a little bit and just start a nice, easy windshield wiper. Every exhale can let your knees kind of drip over to one side. And then as you inhale, you can bring your knees nice and easy back through center, that same general evenness of breath. And as you exhale, your knees can dip to the other side. So you're just stringing this really gentle movement along your breath. And of course, in a chair, this can happen in any way that feels natural to you. If it feels workable, you could just let your knees kind of swing side to side as you're in your chair, supporting yourself in whatever way makes sense. And we kind of design these practices together so they can also support you in your sitting practice. So the parts of you that may feel like they get a little stagnant or compressed as you spend a lot of time in sitting practice, we're going to see if we can invite some breath, invite some movement into those places. So as your hips and low belly and low back and legs take in this side to side movement and breath, you may let your upper body get a little more involved. So maybe as your knees drip over to the right, your left shoulder kind of weights itself down. You could even swivel your gaze over to the left. And then as your knees come back through center, your gaze can come back through center, and then your knees can drip the other direction, and you could let the opposite shoulder weight down. And of course, all of that can happen if you're doing this from a seat in a chair, just swiveling your head with your legs, letting your shoulders kind of one by one get a little bit heavier. So it becomes this full body kind of sense of almost wringing out, full bodied participation in this turning of the wheel of the year, this autumn time of both gathering and releasing. So your breath is doing that. Maybe a couple more rounds. Every inhale of gathering what you're harvesting, what you might be preserving, and every exhale, gentle release of what you might be composting, letting go. And then all of this can happen at your own pace. Everything I'm doing is really just a suggestion, just a place to start. If it feels okay, the next time that your knees drip over to the right, whether you're sitting or whether you're on your back, let them kind of fall over there. You can support underneath your legs with an extra blanket or even with your zafu or something. And maybe your left leg could walk over to the left a little bit. You could just heel toe that foot out a little bit. So you maybe create a little bit more sense of some opening, some stretch on the front of your left thigh, your left hip crease, your left side waist, and then you might even stretch your left arm way up alongside your left ear, just to extend that stretch almost from your knee up through your arm. And we can think of our left side body in the yogic tradition. We would think of it as the solar, the brighter, sunnier, active side of the body. So maybe representing the season we're beginning to slowly drift away from, that abundance and brightness and light of summer. You can just maybe honor that. Hold that, breathe into that for another round of breath or so on this whole left side of your body stretching. And then you can keep your legs just as they are, keep your body generally as it is if that feels all right to you. And then maybe you take your left fingertips up to your left shoulder and just kind of stir your left elbow around. So you got some circulation around that shoulder joint, around the front of your chest and your upper back. And again, if you're sitting in a chair, same thing. Just take your left fingertips to your left shoulder and maybe swirl that elbow around. So you could swirl it around the other way a couple of times. And then when all of that starts to feel ready to be still, to kind of come back to that equilibrium of center, you can let the arm get still and you can bring the knees back up and you can let your feet spread into the grounding, rooting, settling of the earth and just come back to middle. Let your body find that midpoint between the extremes, between the height of summer and the inward turn of winter. Here you are, right at this little threshold time. Just you and the ground and your breath. And then from there, as you feel ready, your knees could drip over the other direction. So they can drip all the way over to the left. You can be sitting or on the ground to do this. As you drip your knees over, it might feel nice to walk your right foot off to the right just a little bit. So you create that extra bit of stretch if your body wants it. We're not chasing after a lot of deep sensation here, but sometimes, again, sitting gets us compressed in the front of that hip and that whole sideways. So you could maybe open that up a little bit and maybe even your right arm stretches up alongside your right ear. So you've got this whole long continuum of energy to breathe along. Now that right side body and the more subtle body system of yoga, we would think of that as the lunar side, as the side that is more in the shadow, maybe more about intuition and imagination and kind of a quiet turning in. So a little bit of a whisper of the season that we're moving toward, this inward turn, the softening of our gaze, things that we might be gathering to take with us into that time, things that we just might be finished with for a season, that we might be letting go, breathing up and down your right side body, another cycle or so. And then again, as you feel ready, if you'd like to add a little bit of movement into your shoulders, your chest, with your knees drift over there to the left, your right fingertips could come to your right shoulder and you could swirl that elbow around a little bit and just a deep stirring of the root of that shoulder, deep in its socket, maybe spreading some release into the right side of your chest and your upper back and the blade of the shoulder, kind of skimming the back of the heart. You could swirl the elbow around the other way a few times. When that movement decides to get still, let that arm release. Bring your knees back up through center. You can heel toe your feet back in. Again, head back to the middle, just back to that point of equilibrium, that state of settled, symmetrical balance. And then when you feel ready, you might scoop your knees. And if you're on your back, you could just hold on to your thighs or your knees, or if it works for you in whatever shape you're in a chair, you could scoop your knees in a little bit. And it might feel nice just to rock a little bit side to side here, just smoothing out the rim of your pelvis and your low back. Again, if you're sitting to do this, you could just let yourself sway a little bit side to side. And then it may feel nice just to open up a little bit more. Those of you on your backs, you could stretch your feet up toward the sky. You could even stretch your arms up alongside your ears and kind of let your body open. And as you feel ready to exhale, could be a little bit of a sighing release. You can hug everything in. You could even lift your forehead up to your knees and move back and forth like that a few times. In a chair, it can look however it looks. You can simply use the arms, inhale and stretch your arms up toward the sky, and then exhale, fold your arms back in, or you could hug one knee at a time as you come in. Again, you're just back to that nice rhythmic quality of your breath. Nothing forced. You don't have to get too gripped about making that exactly even. Just gonna let the natural rhythms of your body move. Maybe one more time like that. And then as you feel ready to hug your knees back in and pause, hug your knees in and pause. You could rest your head back down. And one more little bit before we change our orientation to the ground here. See if it might feel okay. Those of you on your backs, put your feet right on the ground and they'll just kind of naturally land roughly as wide apart as your hips. Again, these are all just the starting points. And let's let our bodies do a little bit of a bridge flow here to continue to open up across the fronts of the hips, the belly, and to kind of strengthen our backside, which can get a little sleepy, especially if we're sitting on a cushion a lot of the time. So you can press your heels into the earth, and when you feel ready to inhale, just float your hips up. And as you feel ready to exhale, let them rest back down. Now, this can happen if you're sitting in a chair, simply energetically. You can keep moving, those of you on your backs. Those of you practicing in a seat, you can just imagine, again, you could go back to the arms, or it could be that you use your hands on your chair. Some of you may feel it's possible to lift your hips up a little bit and lower them back down, just energetically. Imagining you're going to do that lift will strengthen that part of the back body. Maybe a few more like that. You can feel the backs of your thighs, your bottom muscles, all the muscles that line along your spine. Again, places in a culture where we spend a lot of time in a seated shape that tend to get just a little bit sleepy. So maybe one more cycle through to balance that out. And then everything can lower back down. Take some time to just let that soak in. With that movement distill, I often feel in my body that after movement, as I get still, it's almost like sediment, settling down to the bed of a body of water. So things get still and calm again. And then one more time. You can hug your knees in. If you're on your back, you could hug your knees in a seat if that works for you. A little sway from side to side. And then nice and slow and easy. You can, those of you on your back can roll over to one side. And you can ease your way up. Nice and slow. And then if you're working on the ground here, if you're on your mat, you could maybe unfold a blanket to cushion under your knees and make your way to your hands and your knees. If you're in a chair, you'll just sit. You could rest your hands on your thighs. You could rest your hands on your knees. And we'll just let all of this movement now get a little bit more full bodied. Sometimes it's nice to really press your hands right into the earth so you feel that connection and to feel that strength of the ground kind of moving up your arm bones. Your shoulders can move away from your ears a little bit. And then pretty familiar to lots of us, just a little arching and rounding. We call it cow yoga. You can inhale and drop your belly and arch your spine. And then exhale, simply reverse that by rounding your way in. So this is just to lubricate, hydrate along the spine. In a chair or a seat, it looks just like that. You're just inhaling and arching through your spine, and exhale, rounding in. And first, feel like it's kind of climbing up and down that pathway of your spine, almost like there are 24 little pebbles on that pathway. There are 24 vertebrae in the spine. But then it may start to also move into those end points of your shoulders rolling back and forth and that whole basin of your pelvis rolling over your thigh bones. It becomes really embodied. And maybe another cycle through like that. And then the next time you tuck and round, tuck and round, tuck and round. See how it feels to sink your hips back towards your heels. You can go all the way to a child's pose. You can move toward a child's pose, just this deep folding in. Now, in a chair, if you've got something in front of you, like if you're working at a screen and that computer is in front of you, you can put your hands on whatever desktop or tabletop you might have in front of you and create the same kind of a shape. Or you can just round in with your hands on your legs and just fold your way in. And this gives us a chance to kind of absorb that full-bodied bow toward the actual elemental quality of the ground. The ground right now, is drawing things back in. We've moved out of that emerging, moving up, vining up toward the sun energy. Now sap is starting to sink, roots are starting to tether back down to the earth. Can your natural body feel a little bit of that presence? And your breath feel some of that equanimity and harmony? And then those of you in a child's pose on the ground, you can ease up in a chair, you can ease up, and let's stretch the backs of our legs out just a little bit. So take your right leg, those of you on the ground, stretch it out, and it might feel nice just to keep the ball of the foot connected to the ground so the heel can reach out and you can kind of glide forward and back a little bit, seeing if you can open up through the connective tissue on the sole of your foot, the bed of your calf, maybe gliding through your shoulders. In a chair, sometimes it's nice just to turn to the side if that works for you. You can turn to the side and you can stretch one leg out a little bit. If that doesn't work so much, you can maybe stretch the leg forward. That would be another way to work, and just kind of press through the ball of the foot. Give yourself another breath, however you're finding your way here. And then those of you on the ground, see about floating that leg up, and it might feel nice just to swirl that leg around a little bit. So we're kind of moving into some hydration in the joint of that hip as things get a little bit more dried out in the autumn time. It's nice to bring a little hydration in. You can swirl the leg around the other way a few times. And this can happen with your foot on the ground if you're sitting. You're just getting a little bit of mobility into that whole hip complex. And then when you feel ready, stretch that leg out again, those of you on the ground, and let's see about moving our way up to a lunge. So you can step your right foot forward. It may take a few steps to get there. In yoga studios, sometimes we bring blocks under our hands to get up a little bit, kind of bring the floor closer to you. I think a zafu works just fine. You could put that under your hands if that works for you. And again, if you're sitting in a chair, you can just bring that foot forward so that right foot is bent and that left leg is back, or you could just kind of move into whatever configuration of that works for you, and then see any variation on this theme about just hinging forward and back a little bit, kind of moving into your hips. So it's like a little half split pose there as you move back, and maybe draw your toes back and then forward, back and forward again. If our hips spend a lot of time in one position, it's really nice to get in there into all the little nooks and crannies. So if this wants to be more of a sway side to side, or that right foot wants to get wider, or you even want to rock out to the outside edge of it, you can do that. This is just a little time of exploration for you. Maybe another cycle through. You may pause with that leg stretched out, and I like to even imagine that I'm going to drag the heel of that outstretched leg back, but it's not going to move. You're just going to breathe into that opening now, a different version of that same stretch. And an even cycle of breath there. And then lunge your way back in when you feel ready, and see if it works for you as you lunge in. You've got your right foot forward, your left knee back, to maybe stretch your arms up to the sky. So that creates a little bit of opportunity in the body to balance. You don't have to do this. You can have your hands down, you can have your hands on a leg, but if you are able to just experiment with this a little bit, you can really plug that front heel into the ground, even hug that hip in. It's almost like your back knee is dragging forward. So your body is being asked to be in a state of balance here. And then to go back to that little stretch, you might hold on to your left wrist, tug it up toward the sky and over a little bit. So then your body has to balance that out. And you could pulse back and forth like that. Inhale and exhale. Maybe one more like that. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale all the way back up. You can swirl your wrists around a little bit just to release any extraneous tension there. Bring your hands all the way back down to the ground. Step your right knee back to meet your left knee again. And then just play with this. Stretch it all the way back out that leg again, like we did right here at the beginning of this little sequence, I like to flex the foot so I can really feel that leg engaged. And then from here, experiment, if you'd like, with tiptoeing your left fingertips forward. You might even lift that left arm up alongside your ear. And then just see how the whole center of your body gathers in to support you in this tabletop balance. In a chair, you could simply lift an arm and a leg to get that same sense. You could simply lift the arm and gather that energy around your center. Can you soften your face and your jaw, maybe the skin around your eyes? It would even be advanced yoga if you smiled right now and give it one more breath. And put everything down. And you can maybe bring your knees and thighs together and give yourself a little rock from side to side. And it may feel, if it felt good to you to go into that child's pose, you could go forward and back a little bit here, back to your child's pose and up to tabletop. That tabletop could even hinge forward. You could drop your hips a little bit and open your chest through that gateway of your arms. Again, these are just options now. Kind of move like your natural body would like to respond to things for a few breaths, something organic and soothing and neutralizing and equalizing. And of course, stillness is a great option. That might be where you are rather than moving. And then just pause. If you haven't found kind of stillness and equilibrium, find it somewhere now in your breath, in your body, and notice what you're noticing about the two side-by-side halves of your body. This energy of brightness that we're moving out of, this energy of a more quiet inward turning time that we're tilting toward, and you right here at this threshold, taking it all in. And just like those two halves of light and dark and day and night, the good news, bad news in yoga is that we have two sides to everything. So when you feel ready, ease your way back up to your hands and your knees and stretch your left leg out. And so you can tuck your toes, you could reach through your heel, you could glide a little bit forward and back. By doing that, you get to experiment with all the little tiny nooks and crannies of the root system of the webbing in between your toes and the skin of your foot and the deep bed of your calf muscles, which have a lot to do with our ability to balance in the world. And then you can float that leg up and just kind of swirl it around a little bit, just stirring the socket of that thigh bone in its little home base in your pelvis. You could stir it around another time or so the other way. Again, in a chair, you're just modifying this however it works for you. You can simply be hugging a knee in and swirling your ankle. You could be stirring that leg bone around. And then as you feel ready, you can stretch that leg back out. And we're going to step it through. So you can hug that knee in. You can rise up onto something to make that happen. Sometimes it takes a few steps to get it up there, and cushion under your knee if you'd like. Put some height under your hands if you'd like. Walk that foot as wide as you'd like and start that little forward and back movement. Just opening up places that might feel like, as we move into this drier, quieter time, could use a little hydration, could use a little bit of your breath swirling around. And this kind of close to the earth, deep grounded movement can also be a bit of reverence for all that you've cultivated. Could be literal gardens, or abundance could be relationships or lessons or other things you've been cultivating this whole summer season. Maybe give yourself one more breath to move back and forth within that. And then when you feel ready to stretch that left leg out, you can stretch it out. And again, maybe even imagine you could scoot that heel forward a little bit and imagine you're going to drag that left heel back. You could peel your toes back. And then nice and slow and easy, ease your way back into that lunge. If the foot got wide, you may move it in a little bit more so that you feel a little bit more steady and balanced. So then, if you'd like, you can rise up. You can put your hands on your thighs. You could lift your arms up toward the sky. So it So some of us may feel really simple, but this is quite a balancing shape. You can really plug that right heel in, or excuse me, that left heel in, and imagine that left hip is hugging in and the back knee is hugging forward. And you can stay just as you are here. You can lower your hands if that gives you a little bit more support. You could grab a hold of your right wrist, give it a tug upward as you inhale and maybe over as you exhale. And do that another couple of times, getting right into the accordion shape of your rib cage, moving the breeze of your even breath way down there. And then inhale, bring yourself all the way back up when you're ready. Again, maybe swirl through your wrists as your hands come down, all the way back down to the ground. Step that left knee back. So you come back to your hands and your knees, and then go back into seeing if you can stretch that left leg out in any configuration. Again, all of this happening from a chair just by turning your body in whatever way works. You can press through that heel. And then maybe just experiment. It can go slow, so you really get to take in the center of you gathering. You can tiptoe your right fingers forward. You can stretch that right arm up alongside your ear. And then without gripping and clenching, can your body just absorb this? Both limbs don't have to be up. One can be down. Could you soften the skin around your eyes? Can you release the hinge of your jaw? Can you feel the even quality of your breath? One more breath here. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Everyone put your hand down, put your knee down, and go back maybe to that knees together, a little bit of a sway side to side if that feels nice, or forward and back. Maybe for a few breaths, let your head go. Kind of let it be like a heavy pendulum, and moving down toward the ground, like that energy that's hugging us all back down toward the earth, especially right now. You could relax the back and the sides of your neck. If you're seated, you could simply drop your chin down to create this effect. And just some very simple, low to the ground variations of sun salutations. Right here, you could rise back up to standing on both of your knees. You could just come up to a tall seat if you're in a chair, stretch your arms way up alongside your ears. And as you exhale, big full-bodied bow. Maybe your arms rest back in the small of your low back, and you even turn one side of your face down. You could be hinging forward and back in a seat, or doing this on the ground. Inhale all the way back up, almost like you're tracing the shape of the sun with your arms. And as you exhale, big full-bodied bow in. Other side of your face can come down. Your arms can rest in the small of your low back. And let this be like a full-bodied chant in a way of that opening, abundant light energy and that softening, quieting inward turn of energy. Just let this become a moving, breathing meditation for a couple more rounds. It can happen as slowly and as fluidly as you would like. Sometimes I find if I just breathe in and out through my nose, then you kind of get a little hug of breath against the back of your throat. You can hear it maybe, feel it. Last time through like this. And then the next time you find yourself inhaling and floating your arms up like you've traced the shape of that sun, pause right there. And then almost like you're pressing the air down in front of your face, press air down so it's moving back toward the ground. Two more like that. Inhale, float your arms way out and up, tracing that summertime sun. And then you might even exhale through your mouth with a little bit of a sigh, pressing the breath down. One more time, inhale. Good, sigh out your exhale to blow it out like you're blowing out through a straw. Let your fingertips drip down toward the ground. Great. If standing on your knees doesn't feel comfortable, feel free to change this at any time. If it feels okay, you could wrap your arms back behind you and maybe hold on to opposite hands, opposite wrists. Again, sitting is perfect for this. Just bow your brain down toward your heart and then let one ear drift over toward its shoulder. You might even Tip your chin up. You might rock your jaw a little bit. Bow your brain back down toward your heart, other ear, toward its shoulder. You could tip your chin up. You could smooth out the muscles of your face. Bow back down. One more time. Let your fingertips drip down toward the ground. Let your shoulders be heavy. And then as you're ready to inhale, float your face back up and scoop your shoulders way up to your ears. Give them a little extra squeeze right there. Maybe sip in a little bit more breath, like that big, bright, abundant energy. And then a big open mouth sigh. Feel your shoulder blades slide back all the way back down your back as if they're going to tuck into back pockets. Make your way back to your hands and your knees. We're going to start to make our way all the way down. If your knees need a break and you want to move into a downward facing dog, those of you who've been on your knees for a while, we can make it just really grounded and earthy. You can bend into one knee and then the other. If you're in a seat, you could let yourself go back to swaying a little bit side to side. Maybe one more breath there. Nice. And then those of you who are practicing on your mat, you can come all the way back down. And let's move back into a shape similar to the one that we started with. So you could put a blanket under your head. We'll make our way onto our backs. Those of you in a chair, you just get nice and settled again, maybe even with some support of that chair behind you. And when you get back there, I like to snuggle that little curve of the blanket into the back of my neck. It's like shorthand to the nervous system. Oh, my neck can relax. Therefore, other parts of me can relax a little bit. And then just cross your right arm over your left when you get there. So it's like you're giving yourself a hug. Your fingertips can drip back to your shoulder blades. And then that can just be nice and easy, like heavy limbs of your arms. So right over left, just so we're all kind of in the same little formula here. And then you could cross your left leg over your right. So you're just like you're sitting in a chair with your legs crossed. It's sort of like a little mild version of an eagle pose. We're doing it on our backs without so much twisting and contorting. And then as you inhale, you could move your elbows and knees away from each other a little bit. Like your elbows could move up to your forehead and your knees could move away. And as you exhale, you could draw them a little bit closer to each other. You could even lift up if you feel like you want to curl in. And so that's the general recipe. So you can be doing this in a seat. Inhale, elbows and knees move away from each other. Exhale, let them hug toward each other. If you know and love the more wrapping of your limbs that we do in eagle pose, feel free, but you get plenty of benefit just from that little hug and that crossover of your legs. And so it's this now kind of rounded winding root turning in, maybe another time or so like that. And then the next time you're ready to inhale, let everything open out wide. And so you could keep your knees bent or you can stretch your legs wide. You could open through your arms and let the earth gather your body in. Let your body go back to being a breeze that's nice and even. One more breath, just soaking it in. And then rebend your knees, those of you on the ground, resettle yourselves, those of you in a seat. We'll just do that on the other side. So you'll cross your left arm over your right, like you're giving yourself a hug. Your fingertips can drip back. You could even hold on to your shoulder blades, and then your right leg could cross over your left. And if you want to wind things up a little bit more, feel free to do that. But it's plenty to really let our bodies dive into right here as you inhale. Your elbows and your knees can move away from each other. And as you exhale, you can hug in. You can even lift up a little bit if you'd like, or curl in if you're sitting. Just back and forth like that a few times. So it's beginning to have a physical embodiment of this gathering in. It's getting quieter and more contained. Maybe another cycle like that. And then when you feel ready, you could inhale and let everything unwrap and open. So those of you on the ground, you might widen your feet or even stretch your legs out. Those of you in a chair, you might, or in a seat of any kind, you might just widen through your legs and open through your arms. And take that in. Give yourself another breath here, wide, bright, yet grounded. And it's really nice, especially at this time of equilibrium, to kind of bookend our practice. So if you'd like, those of you on your backs, rebend your knees, let your feet be wide, and go back to that windshield wipering in a seat. Just let yourself windshield wiper your knees and your shoulders and your gaze. So you kind of take in how this sensation, how this movement of breath now feels in your body. And you might slow it down and even it out for another cycle of breath or so. And then one more time, let all of that get still, settled in the middle, feet on the ground, body breathing. Heel toe your feet back together. Draw your knees in, whether you're on your back or seated. It can just be an energetic drawing in. Just 3 times here to finish. As you inhale, press your knees away. Take in the big, bright fullness of that inhale. And then a gentle sigh as you exhale. Let everything gather in and soften and get quiet and still. You could lift your forehead to your knees. Twice more. Inhale, press your knees away. Soak in that breath and that brightness and all that you've gathered from the season we're closing. And then exhale, draw in like a little nod to this quieter section of the year that we're being invited into. One more time, inhale. And an open-mouthed sigh if you'd like. Exhale, draw in, draw in. And then lower your head down if you lifted your head. And let's arrange our bodies either on the ground, in a seat, in a chair. There's this brief little time of absorption. Call it Shavasana in yoga, just a time to really let everything integrate and distill. So you can stretch out long. You can, on your backs, put a rolled blanket behind your knees, or even drape your legs over your zafu if you've got that, in a chair. You can lean back and feel some support. Rest some gentle comfort and weight on your body, maybe in the form of a blanket or a cushion. There's no right, there's nothing you have to solve here. There's nothing you have to fix or do. Go back to where we started by really taking in the actual support of the earth. It's always kind of hugging us toward it. So can you maybe register that in the earthier parts of your body, your bones, the minerals of your bones? And then you could let your muscles get just a little heavier, a little more like blankets draping over your bones. Perhaps let the skin all the way across your face spread. Skin across your collarbone is going to spread out to your shoulder heads. Let your arms drape easy. Feel the breeze of the breath again, kind of moving like the wings of your rib cage. are receiving it and then releasing it back out. The well of your belly, just rest toward the basin of your pelvis. The root system of your legs can feel as grounded as they'd like, settling all the way down into your heels and your feet. We'll just spend a quiet minute here, absorbing, integrating, being in this state of equilibrium. Very gently begin to take in again everything that's supporting you here in the wide spread of the ground beneath you. Let your head make a little heavy rock from side to side if you'd like. If you're on your back, you might scoop your knees in. Wherever you are, you might go back to that gentle sway, like your own body is swaying right along the body of the earth and its tilt toward a new season. And if you'd like, you might roll all the way over to one side if you're on your back and you'd like to finish in an upright shape. Nice and easy, you could press your hands right into the bed of the earth and ease your way up to a seat that feels comfortable and steady, some ease, some balance. As we finish, I'd love to share a little autumn poem with you by one of my favorite poets, Rosemary Watola Tromer. You can soften your gaze and take it in as you prepare to head out into this autumn morning or autumn, whatever time of day it is in your zone. It's called the autumn morning. Perhaps a red-tailed hawk calls to you through closed windows, and curious, you leave your work and step out into the morning. The air smells of rain and autumn leaves, and the hawk makes wide circles above the yard as if showing you how it's done. This is how you play with the day. Everything glitters as the sun emerges. Everything, even your thoughts, even your greatest loss. The hawk disappears up canyon. You breathe as if you've just remembered how. And when you go back in, you're careful to fold in your wings. Gather your wings in a little shape of gratitude and offering. And I thank you all so much. Thank everyone at Great Tree for including these practices. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Namaste.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Paige.
59.
Thank you. 10:59, wow. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. Just what I needed for sure.
We'll do it again at the winter solstice. What do you say?
Thank you so much, but your timing couldn't have been better because we're just trying to de-stress. Every night I've been dreaming about planning and seating for the mountain seat ceremony. I'm still doing it. So
Come, let it go.
no, I gotta just let it go. Thank you so much. Let's give back the merit. May the merit of this practice benefit all beings and bring peace.
And bring peace.
Have a wonderful autumn day, everyone.
Thank you.